The information in this video is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Please make informed decisions and take responsibility for your own health choices.
Welcome to New View, New Life. I'm Sherilyn Shelley, exploring fresh perspectives and timeless truth to transform your health, your home, your mindset, and your life. Because claiming the life you were made for starts with seeing clearly. Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about wellness phenomena of the decade, grounding, also known as earthing, the idea that placing your bare feet on the earth can improve your health, reduce inflammation, relieve stress, and even change physiology. We're going deep into a journey about why our bodies and our spirits naturally thrive when we're connected to the earth. So get comfortable, maybe even take your shoes off, grab a cup of coffee, tea, or sparkling water, and settle in as we explore how to start getting that connection back. A few years ago, my future husband introduced me to a book called Earthing, and ever since then, I've been really interested in the subject. The information in there is mind-blowing, and it's very well broken down in the documentary called The Earthing Movie. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, because what I've learned about this subject is really life-changing. In the documentary, the filmmakers Rebecca and Josh were documenting an oil spill in Louisiana, environmental work that left Rebecca exposed to toxic chemicals, which seriously affected her health. The doctors warned that there might even be long-term consequences, including difficulty conceiving, but they decided to try anyway. Unfortunately, they lost one pregnancy, and that was heartbreaking. But they tried again, and they finally welcomed their daughter into the world, even though they had been told that she might not survive. But Athena was born healthy and normal. Eventually, though, she became chronically ill, and they were in the hospital constantly, and Rebecca and Josh were open to anything to help their daughter. Coming from that place of uncertainty, where traditional treatments were not delivering the answers that they'd hoped for, they started looking at every possible option. And one day, someone gave them the book that I was telling you about earlier called Earthing. Now, of course, at first they were skeptical, as most of us are when we first hear about this subject, because think about it, it's almost laughable that simply placing your bare feet on the earth can help your body begin to heal itself. It sounds like an old wives' tale, right? Something too simple to be meaningful. But they were desperate for answers, and that's where a lot of us have actually found big answers for our health, is when we're humbled by our experience or by our pain and become open to learning something new. So the experiment began. They reached out to experts, people talking about grounding as literally putting your bare feet on the ground and letting the earth become part of your physical experience again. The man who's most well known with this movement, Clint Ober, he's the author of the book Earthing. He actually started as a cable TV engineer, grounding cables so the signals didn't wreak havoc. Over time, he began wondering about grounding the human body, about our disconnection from the earth, about how for the first time in human history, we insulated ourselves with rubber shoes, synthetic materials, elevated beds, and insulation from the ground that our ancestors always walked, lived, and slept upon. He had stories of growing up around Native American culture, where nothing was owned, land was not thought of as property, and where connection with the earth was a part of daily life. He told a story about a little girl who was really, really sick, and no one was able to help her. One of the Native American elders dug a hole for her in the earth, put her in it, and put earth all around her. They built a fire nearby her, and guess what? She recovered. Stories like that stuck with him. He noticed that in America, we rarely go barefoot. We walk insulated, cushioned, separated from the ground, and he began to ask himself, are we losing something essential when we lose contact with the earth? In the documentary, they interviewed everyday people, people who didn't know anything about grounding, and the reactions were revealing. Some people were intrigued, some thought it was a load of baloney, others said something unexpectedly true. When they walk barefoot on warm sand, in grass, on the earth, they feel better. Their body feels calmer. Something shifts. It's one of those things that's hard to believe until you experience it yourself. And that brings us back to Rebecca and Josh. They began grounding their daughter, and something changed. Over time, she started to improve. The chronic sicknesses lessened. She wasn't in the hospital nearly as much. Rebecca described it as almost like a rebirth, a new way of being in the world. And it wasn't just physical, it was emotional and spiritual too. Their whole family began spending more time outside, bare feet in the grass, sun on their faces, connected to the earth. Which makes sense when you consider human history. For most of our existence, we lived barefoot. We slept on the ground, our muscles and nerves and our senses were in direct contact with the earth. We walked in fields and forests and riverbeds, and when we did wear shoes or sleep on surfaces, they were natural. In other words, conductive. And so they didn't interrupt that grounding connection with the earth. It didn't unground us. So many traditions, spiritual practices, and ancient teachings talk about going outside, being in nature, connecting with the earth. Why? Because long before science tried to explain the mechanisms, mankind instinctively felt the relief, the peace, and the ease that comes from being in physical contact with the ground, the earth that we come from. And when we look at childhood, at the way children naturally run barefoot in grass, at playgrounds, at beaches, it tells a story. Children instinctively know that connection to the earth feels good. They don't need a study to confirm it. You can see it in their joy, in their laughter, the way they curl their toes in the grass. In schools where teachers have created grounding spaces, patches of grass, access to soil, places where students can take their shoes off and be in direct contact with the earth, teachers report profound changes. Children who struggled with focus, with discipline, with behavior, they're able to be peaceful and calm down in the soil. They sit on the grass. They breathe and reconnect naturally. And what about the stories of those with chronic conditions? People who've been told there's nothing left to be done. Just look it up. There's people who've lived in pain and inflammation and disconnection. Many people report that grounding became part of the answer that they were looking for. It brought relief and sleep. It brought back energy they hadn't felt in years. So many people who've been reaching out again to the earth and feeling themselves come alive again. And that's the heart of this conversation. Because it's more than just touching grass, as they say. It's a reminder that we are part of this earth. We're not separate from it. We tend to live in spaces that are insulated, isolated, indoors, synthetic. And somewhere along the way, we forgot that our bodies and our hearts are calibrated for connection with nature, with the earth. We weren't meant to be separated. Now, you can look at it from a scientific perspective, and there's evidence out there that tries to explain how and why this works. From a more modern perspective, the basic idea is that the surface of the earth has a supply of free electrons. When your skin makes direct contact with soil, sand, grass, or even a specially designed grounding mat, these electrons enter your body and neutralize oxidative stress and inflammation. A 2015 review published in the Journal of Inflammation Research found that grounding was associated with changes in inflammatory markers, immune cell behavior, and wound healing indicators in experimental contexts. A small study published in 2004 looked at people sleeping grounded and found changes in overnight cortisol rhythms. Cortisol is the hormone that regulates stress and sleep cycles. Another study suggests that grounding influenced variables like thyroid hormones and electrolyte levels during sleep, pointing to potential endocrine effects. Some reviews recommend grounding be considered in broader lifestyle and preventative health approaches because multiple small studies report benefits in sleep, stress, autonomic function, and pain. WebMD points out that some studies suggest changes in inflammation, blood flow, sleep, and stress. Most studies are small, preliminary, or not independently replicated, meaning the results are not yet conclusive from a scientific standpoint. More robust research is still needed. You can look at it from a scientific perspective, but whether or not you frame it that way, the proof is in the pudding, in what happens when you experience it, when you start to shift your paradigm back to a more common sense, natural relationship with reality. So picture a day in your life, waking up, stepping out of bed, and stepping outside for a minute, barefoot on the grass. Maybe there's morning dew, maybe it's sun-warmed earth. Maybe you're blessed enough to live by a sandy beach or a park. Close your eyes and just let yourself feel it. Notice the texture, the temperature, the subtle but powerful connection beneath your feet. I really encourage you to check out the book Earthing and also the documentary called The Earthing Movie. It's free on YouTube. I also have a special ebook I made for you called Grounded, the recharge that heals, with lots of ways that you can make this a part of your everyday life. You can get yours for free at bit.ly/grounded recharge. That's bit.ly/grounded recharge. If this episode stirred something in you, share it with someone you care about and step outside. Take a deep breath of that fresh air and be present with the earth beneath your feet. Remember that you are a part of nature. Until next time, stay grounded. If you ever feel stressed, overwhelmed, or just need a quick moment to reset, I've created a 5-minute emotional reset. It includes a guided audio and a PDF ebook you can use anytime. Grab it for free at bit.ly/NVNL reset. That's bit.ly/NVNL reset. NVNL as in New View, New Life. Again, that's bit.ly/NVNL reset. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with that friend who needs it, or leave a review. It really helps others find the show.
The sky turns gold where the mountains sleep. A whisper of truth in the wind so deep. Every step feels like a brand new start. New horizons call my name. Nothing stays the same. Change the view, change the game. The river knows where it needs to flow. The seeds we plant in time will grow. Life's a path, not a map to hold. New horizons call my name. Nothing stays the same. Change the view, change